Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Fallen London. We are going to be continuing with the exceptional story, The Thing That Came In from the Fog. In the last episode, the fog got a voice through some fruit. But upon returning to your lodgings, the Grand Master ensconces himself in your living room, playing with the Selenus chess set, alone. We can ask him what are his last memories of the expedition, whether it's through astral projection or body-snatching fungus. His real body has been left behind in the Elder Continent. What does he recall? After I was abandoned by my faithless companion, I was alone and afraid, says the Grand Master. But I was determined to find the secret elders. I continued travelling for weeks, deep into the Presperate. Eventually, I found myself in a kingdom of silence and rot. The air was thick with choking grey dust. The cities were magnificent. Once, grand spires, marble palaces, but they were all entombed in bristling fungus. I grew tired, so tired. I sat, cross-legged, and I meditated as the dust filled my lungs. I knew my time was short, so I prayed to the secret elders, begging them to save me. The Grand Master smiles. The next thing I knew, my spirit had emerged from my body. My astral form had broken free of its fleshy limits. Okay, so what is the significance of the chess set? Doesn't it get boring, playing against himself? Oh, but I am not playing against myself, declares the Grand Master, solemnly moving a rook. This is how I communicate with the gods and the spirits of this world. They whisper their moves in my head, and I move the pieces on their behalf. Back and forth we go. So why does he call himself a Grandmaster? Because in every game I am mastering myself, says the Grandmaster with gravitas. This doesn't make sense, but it does sound impressive for a moment. So we can contemplate our next move. You sit opposite the chessboard for a moment, watching the Grandmaster's solitary game. The Grandmaster is playing both sides of the chessboard. Before moving the black pieces, he will cock his head as though listening to a silent voice. Even against himself, it is apparent he is only a middling player. You've learned much about the Grandmaster, and a little about his condition. What on earth are you going to do with him? We have three options. We can evict him. You just want him to leave your lodgings and never return. We can do destruction. If possible, you want this thing gone. Not from here, from everywhere. We can aid. Obnoxious as he might be, the Grandmaster is clearly befuddled and in need of your help. Or we can do further research. You're still curious about the life cycle of the fungus and the nature of the Grandmaster's half-death. You just want to find out more. I think I'm going to go with research, as it's curious. Unfortunately, you still have little idea how to find out more about the fungus. In theory, the Mythendrake office, the Presperites' Ministry of Lies, know more about the Elder Continent than could fill a library. They will be able to shed further light on the Grandmaster's condition. In theory. In practice, they're only likely to muddle things further. Yet it might be your only hope. Okay, so let's pop off to the Mythendrake office. The Mythendrake office on Sir Cease Street boasts a rotating cast of liars, frauds, propagandists, and story spinners. It's differentiated from most government departments by the fact that they're good at it. During your first 2 appointments, you're quickly able to ascertain that the Mythendrakes you're speaking to are secretly lifelong Londoners. One you recognise from a play you once watched. The other weaves a convincing tale, utterly shattered when you catch him off guard with an arcane question about the rules of cricket. "That'd be overstepping the crease," he says breezingly, before clamping a hand over his mouth. How can you find a Mythendrake who's actually from the Elder Continent? Such a thing must exist, surely. We would have 2 options. We can beat them at their own game, match them lie for lie, which definitely seems like the way I would approach this situation, or we could rely on diplomatic connections if we had a Presbyterian diplomat, which we do not. The workings of the office are somewhat opaque, even to him, but he knows a few of the levers to pull. But no, we're going to beat them lie for lie. You spend a few days on this, flooding the Mythendate's office's post office with missives, writing letters to the editor of every London newspaper, accosting people in the street and spreading rumours in pubs. 1,000 different flavours of untruth, all spinning outrageous stories about the Grandmaster and his relationship to the Presbyterian. Who said that a web of lies needed to be consistent? A sensible lie can be destroyed by a sensible truth. An army of lies, a battalion of fighting, mad, barbarian lies with frothed lips and only a tangential relationship to reality, can stampede right over the truth without even knowing it's there. By the end of your campaign, the Mithridat office summon you to ask you what's going on. The Mithridat listens patiently as you outline your predicament. That is, the Grandmaster's predicament and its unfortunate impact on your living arrangements. With a practiced smile, she tells you that the Grandmaster fell prey to a rare kind of Elder Continent fungus known as the homesick deceiver. The deceiver kills its prey. Its spores assume the prey's shape and consciousness just long enough for the confused doppelganger to journey home and spread the infestation there. An unlucky accident. A tragedy. He just blundered into a dangerous patch of jungle while lost on his fool's errand, whatever it was. Fortunately, the condition can be easily cured. She's mostly lying, of course. It's her raison d'etre. Which part of her story do you poke holes in first? Let's just start at the top and work our way down. The deceiver kills its prey. You express surprise at her use of the word killed. You had thought that things in the Elder Continent have a tendency not to die. Oh dear, my nightmares. It is equivalent to death, says the Mythendate without missing a beat. The prey is rendered mute, immobile, imprisoned. Yes, under the layers of rot, the bristling mould, the burrowing tendrils, a heart beats, an eye blinks, a mind thinks. At that point, don't you think one might as well be dead? The mountain's mercy is not always merciful. Then she says it's a rare kind of elder fungus. Rare? The Grandmaster died among shattered palaces and mould-pitted temples. By your understanding, this fungus has swallowed a kingdom. There are 77 kingdoms in Presperit, replies the Mythendate. If you had lost merely 1/77th of London to tragedy, would you call the entire city a lost cause? Of course not. But that is, you point out, hardly what you said. The kingdom is called Grand Inia, says the Mythendate, and it lives, rotting, entombed. Grandinia lives on. Okay, lost in his fool's errand, whatever it was. You stare at the Mythendate straight in the eye and tell her she knows exactly what his errand was. The ancient manuscripts, the ongoing correspondence with the so-called secret elders, all of it was engineered by the Mythendate office. The coroner, poor fool, actually believed it was real. We never expected them to travel to the Elder Continent, says the Mythendate primly. You wouldn't believe how many lies we spin about our kingdoms that Londoners never even attempt to verify. We just thought it would be useful to have the Crown Coroner in our pocket. Okay, so there's two options here, and both of them are tough or a high risk. We can sift through her words. Is there something you've missed? Something that's only true by the most generous interpretation of the word. It's a 40% chance. Success will allow you to choose the question you missed. Failure will end the conversation. Or we can ask directly where the living Grandmaster can be found. She will lie without lying. If you are sufficiently skilled in that art, you'll be able to peel the lies away and leave truth behind. 40 or 20. Do we roll the 1 in 5 or do we go for the slightly higher? Just because I reckon most people won't click this button, I'm going to click this one, the 20%. Let's see if we pass or not. I'm not holding my breath. Damn. The Elder Continent is unmapped and unmappable, says the Mythendate smoothly. I couldn't possibly give you something so prosaic as directions. You urge her to try, at least. She smiles. Very well, but I shall speak mainly in allegory. Her whole prerogative is not just to keep such information secret, but to make the truth impossible to discover among an ocean of lies. And she's good at it. Too good. By the time she is finished, your head is spinning with tales of writhing hills and scarlet caverns and forests of shattered obelisks. I'm kind of sad I failed that, but oh well. Any other questions? Anything you'd like to pick me up on? The Mythendrake smiles acidly. You say nothing. She takes advantage of your silence to end the conversation. Well, it was nice to meet you, she says sharply, despite all your nitpicking. Good day. You can leave the Mythendrake's presence. She's clearly not going to assist you any further. The Mythendrake office wields dishonesty like a scalpel, or, on rare occasion, like a cudgel. Either way, it's best not to get on their bad side. You've learned as much as you can about the man-shaped fog. Perhaps you should meet with the horticulturalist and discuss what is to be done about the Grand Master. Or, at least, the spores that wear his shape. Go for the final meeting with the horticulturalist. The horticulturalist responds to your message by arriving at your lodgings with a bottle of elderflower gin and a plan. The Grandmaster has always been difficult, as long as I've known him, he tells you. Stubborn's one word for it. When he believes something, he believes it with his whole heart. And if he believes he's not a spore cloud, then things like evidence or logic aren't going to sway him. You'll never get him out of your home, either. So what does the horticulturalist suggest? There has to be a way to get through to the Grandmaster. That damned chess obsession of his, says the horticulturalist. I think he genuinely believes his opponent's moves are not his own. Who knows? Perhaps he's right. Though I doubt a spirit would get beaten quite so often by the fool's mate. And what is his suggestion? You influence the chess game, he replies. Move the pieces without his knowledge. He'll ask questions of the spirits and trust whatever the chess game tells him to do. After discussing the practicalities of the idea, a pawn pulley system, perhaps? Some kind of arrangement with puppet strings. The horticulturalist raises a hand and looks at you seriously. You'll need to decide what you want the spirits to tell him, he says. I'll leave that up to you. On the one hand, convincing him of the truth will destroy him, but strengthening his delusions could mean you're stuck with him forever. I won't resent your decision. I know that spore cloud isn't really my old friend. It's an echo at best. 3 options then. The truth. Even if it destroys him, it's better that he knows the truth. We can say to leave your lodgings and never return. He's not even human, just a cloud of sentient spores. You'll do whatever it takes to get him out of your house. Or we can confirm his delusions. You want to ensure he survives. Hopefully you can induce him to leave your lodgings, but that's only a secondary concern. I think that I am going to tell him the truth. It'll kill him, says the horticulturalist, but I suppose in a way he's already dead. Craft an armor of tissue-thin lies to keep the Grandmaster from immediately exploding when the truth comes out. Oh no. A word of warning though, says the horticulturalist. When the Grandmaster realizes the truth about his nature, the result will be violent. An explosion of spores infesting everything in sight with fungus. Fortunately, we are far enough from the Elder Continent that the spores won't kill anyone or steal anyone's shape, but they'll certainly be inconvenient. If you don't want to see your lodgings infested, you should prepare some comforting lies that might keep him intact after his self-discovery, even if it's only for an hour or 2. At least it'll give him time to flee your premises before he explodes. Wouldn't that just make him explode in like a London street? I feel that that's kind of just as bad, but... Oh dear, we only have a 40% chance of success that we'll even make the armor. Well, not lies exactly. Distortions of the truth, worded in such a way that they bruise rather than devastate. Oh, please. Oh. Thank God for that, we succeeded. You prepare a number of white lies. Being a fungal ghost is similar to an astral projection, isn't it? Perhaps this is close enough to transcendence to count. It should be enough to weave a comforting shroud around the Grandmaster, preventing him from immediate and total existential crisis. That should work, says the horticulturalist. For an hour, maybe less. He stands, finishing his gin, and shakes your hand. It's been a pleasure, but I have no wish to stick around for the finale. I'm going to return to my greenhouse, and be grateful I ever came back from the Elder Continent. Seems like a good choice. Let's play the fateful game. In the dead of night, you performed some amateur carpentry on your living room table where the Grandmaster plays his chess. Now, hours later, you wait, hidden underneath with a big magnet. In theory, you have complete control of the black side of the board. You glued iron filings beneath each piece. The Grandmaster sits, hunched and contemplative. You watch him through a knothole. His head fruit is noticeably worse for wear, his mouth lopsided, an eye black with rot. As always, he plays white. A simple opener. A question with 2 answers. Pawn to e4. So we have 2 options. We can slide the black pawn forward, which would be the classic opening. It moves as if by magnet. Or we can move the black knight. You haven't mastered jumping the knight over other pieces. You'll just knock them out of the way and let the Grandmaster reset the board. Would that not... oh dear. Let's go with the pawn forward. The Grandmaster gasps and looks around the empty room. Spirits? He mutters in a querulous voice. He moves a white piece. A knight this time. Once again, you respond. Spirits, I knew you would appear in my hour of need, says the Grandmaster. I request your guidance. You've made a good move. At the moment, you and the Grandmaster are even. Your pieces click back and forth, a gentle staccato dance. It's impossible to tell who will win. Every few moves, the Grandmaster will pause, his piece raised over the board. He will contemplate the black and white squares like an astrologer staring at stars, and he will ask a question. All-powerful spirits, if I am astrally projecting right now, what is happening to my body? Is it safe? He places his rook beside his queen. Ah, is he attempting to rush down your king? You better close any holes in your defences. So, technically his body isn't fine. It's rotting and stuck under layers of mould. But we can make an aggressive move. A knight crashing into an unsuspecting bishop. A pawn slyly sliding a dagger between the ribs of a queen. Wow, if we're taking out a queen with a pawn, we're doing a good job. Make a defensive move. Giving ground, building castles, triangulating pawns. Careful. Careful. Make an intentionally stupid move. Exposing pieces, leaving lines uncovered. Using your king as a battering ram. There are many ways to lose at chess, and none of them are hard. We can assess the board. What would be the winning move here? Aggressive or defensive? Now, personally, I believe that the defensive move would be the better option, so I'm going to do that. I see, says the Grandmaster, thoughtfully, as you castle your king, leaving all his plans in tatters. I'll take that as a hearty no. But that means... no, surely not. You made a good move and you're winning overall. The Grandmaster is coming to terms with the wretched truth about his nature. Your pieces click back and forth, a gentle staccato dance. You're up a pawn, but it's still anyone's game. Is it your imagination, or has the Grandmaster begun fraying at the edges ever so slightly? Fog is bleeding into the air, muddling his silhouette. But he asks his next question. He sounds normal enough. Mighty spirits, I did not want to ask this in front of the others, but is my head really a fruit? He moves his queen halfway up the board. She's on the warpath. So yet again, we can make an aggressive move, or we can make a defensive move, or we can make a stupid move. Now, if he's moving his queen halfway up the board, that's probably a ridiculous move, so I'm going to make an aggressive move to counter that. A knight crashing into an unsuspecting bishop, a pawn slyly sliding a dagger between the ribs of the queen. Oh, it was a bad move. Really? Murmurs the Grandmaster, as your aggressive push leaves the bishop unguarded. I had thought, well, this changes things. Oh dear. Not good. It's impossible to tell who will win again. There's no question now that the Grandmaster is dissolving at the edges. His foggy body just can't seem to hold a distinct shape. His fingers are bleeding into one another. His mouth is a vague slit. When he asks his next question, his voice has a hollow echo. Almighty spirits, I've been thinking about what the horticulturalist said. A fungus that kills people and takes their shape. Could such a thing really exist? He places his rook somewhere unwise, but if you take it, you risk exposing your queen. Decisions, decisions. Well, that's going to be a defensive move, because losing a queen's bad. So, bad move. My god. It's like that I'm actually trying to win here and I'm losing. This is amazing. Really? Murmurs the Grandmaster, as your defensive manoeuvring leaves your knight unguarded. He takes it looking somber. I had thought, well, this changes things. Grandmaster is ahead. You're down a pawn, but it's still anyone's game. The Grandmaster is increasingly insubstantial. Roiling tendrils of fog unspool from his gauzy body. His head has dropped to the floor like an overripe apple from a tree. Pushing a chess piece forward with both arms, painfully, slowly, he asks a question in a wheezing voice. Oh spirits, when I was journeying in the Elder Continent, I never encountered the secret elders. Sometimes, I confess, I wonder, do they really exist? He moves his king, running scared from your impending rook. It's time to press the advantage. Well, I need to win this to interpret it as a no. Wait. As a no, yes. So, make an aggressive move? At this point, I've no idea. Well, there we go, we're even again. I see, says the Grandmaster thoughtfully, as you waste no time capitalizing on his mistake. That's a no, then. Is it? Strange. I had been so certain. There's increasingly little left of the Grandmaster. He is only vaguely human in shape. His arms are mismatched in length. His only recognizable face has collapsed into a blurry mist. To move his chess piece, he nudges it over with a tendril of mist and rolls it painstakingly along the board. He can only whisper his next question. Oh spirits, when I was journeying in the Elder Continent, I never encountered the secret elders. Sometimes I confess I wonder, do they really exist? Didn't you ask this last time? He moves his king, running scared from your impending rook. It's time to press your advantage. Well, I think we need to make an aggressive move again, because it says time to press your advantage. But, yeah, because we need to win for it to be a no. I see, says the Grandmaster thoughtfully. Okay. Your pieces click back and forth. A gentle staccato dance. You're up a pawn, but it's still anyone's game. There's increasingly little left of the Grandmaster. He is only vaguely human in shape. His arms are mismatched in length. His once recognizable face has collapsed into a blurry mist. To move his chess piece, he nudges it over with a tendril of mist and rolls it painstakingly along the board. He only whisper his next question. Almighty spirits, I've been thinking about what the horticulturalist said. A fungus that kills people and takes their shape. Could such a thing really exist? He places his rook somewhere unwise. If you take it, you risk exposing your queen. Decisions, decisions. Well, we only have one option here, and it's checkmate. His foundations shattered. His self-deceptions unraveled. The man-shaped fog is man-shaped no more. As his king falls, the Grand Master sighs. His indistinct body begins to tremble as though seized from within by a violent storm. The fog rises to the ceiling. It billows and seethes and pulsates. A stagnant light gleams damply within. At this point, the fog is only barely recognizable as human. You can make out two ballooning arms, two expanding legs. You crawl out from beneath the table. If you don't do something soon, the spore cloud is going to explode, and you'll be scouring fungi from your lodgings for weeks. Luckily, we have the armor of tissue-thin lies. Quick, quick! You calm him down with assurances he only half believes. The Grand Master's face is horrific to behold, bulging and contracting, then bulging again. As your words sink in, though, the fog settles. The Grand Master returns to a vaguely human shape. "Thank you," groans the Grand Master. I haven't been very considerate of you these past few weeks, have I? I'm sorry about that." He reaches out an insubstantial hand, plaintively. It passes right through yours. The horticulturalist estimated you'd have less than an hour before the Grand Master exploded, scattering spores throughout the vicinity. The Grand Master is puffing and groaning and occasionally using his hands to pull his foggy flesh back together. "Tell me where to go," he begs you. "Somewhere I won't do any harm." So we have 5 options. We can send him to the Order. They scorned him once. Now is his chance for revenge. The Grand Master will explode within the headquarters of the Hermetic Order, infesting it with spores. We can tell him to jump in the stolen river. The water is his best bet for minimal upset. We can send him to an enemy, Mr. Fires. Nothing quite as enjoyable as inconveniencing a master. The Grand Master will explode in Mr. Fire's office, infesting it with spores. We can send him to an enemy, the Ministry of Public Decency. No one likes the censors. Londoners wouldn't be too upset to hear of their infestation. Or we can send him to an enemy, a favoured haunt of the revolutionaries. There's a coffee house in Vale Garden, rumoured to be a front for the liberationists. I think we should send him to the Order because they are... let's just say they have sparkly eyes. Before it leaves, the Grand Master presses something into your palm. A tiny, incandescent stone. With this last gift given, the shapeless mass of the Grand Master spills out into the street. Its movement is halfway between a drifting cloud and a drunken sprinter. It flies past shocked pedestrians trailing gouts of mist. Finally, it reaches the headquarters of the Order and seeps through an open window, interrupting the occultists mid-ceremony. They stare at him for a baffled moment. "Moina," says the Grand Master, taking a step towards the woman who took over his order. Then, with an eardrum bruising noise that can only be described as a thwumph, the fog explodes. Choking spores fly in all directions, settling in the walls, the ceiling, the floor. A coat of bristling mould creeps over the furniture. Mushrooms erupt through the carpet. The occultists stagger from their headquarters, choking and spluttering. Much later, you hear that several of them ended up in hospital, coughing up toadstools. What a terrible shame. Now we go into the epilogue. The Grand Master's funeral is a sparsely attended affair. Though to everyone's surprise, occultists from the Order turn up wearing black robes and chanting rites of their own creation. They express sorrow that the Grandmaster died before a shining future could come to pass. The horticulturalist makes an appearance, wearing black Wellingtons. The coroner appears in a wheelchair, pushed by the unflappable nurse, wearing earplugs in case he hears anything too melancholy. As the empty coffin lowers and the vicar drones on, you reflect that the real Grandmaster isn't dead at all. He's alive and entombed and beyond anyone's reach. But there's not really a ceremony for that. So, it's time for us to go home. It's been a long couple of weeks. As you open the door, you half expect to see a man-shaped cloud of sentient spores sitting on your armchair and eating your biscuits. But no, your unwanted lodger is finally and definitively gone. That night, you dream of a kingdom in Presperate, air choked with spores that settle in your lungs, pillars of fungus, vaster than towers, their roots churning paving stones aside, shrouds of mildew draped across fountains and lakes, occasionally staring frantically from a mould of rot. A pair of eyes. You wake in a cold sweat. And we have finished this exceptional story. So, that was wonderful. I know I say this a lot, but I thoroughly enjoyed the writing, the story, and the overall feel of that story. It was brilliantly written and kept my interest the entire time, which, you know, is an achievement in itself. But I am going to thank you all very much for being here. Let me know what you did. Let me know what you did different. Did you save him? Did you kill him? How the other options all work. Please like, subscribe, let me know what you think. Your comments are greatly appreciated. And as always, I will see you next time.